Hello, everybody. Hello. Hey, Devin, welcome. How are you doing? I see we have Mr. Jomo Maple in as well. So thank you all for attending our Thrive During Uncertainty Mastermind, the virtual summit. Please let everybody know where you're coming from, what state you're representing. We want to make sure that we give a shout out to everybody and that we want to make sure everyone remains safe. So give us a shout out where you're coming from and what state you're representing as well. So hello, my name is Uche Maple. I am the founder of Women Helping Women Succeed, and which is an organization that prides itself on leadership and personal development. And today we have someone who I met, can you believe it, November of last year at a conference. I met her and her daughter. They were actually in line waiting to go into the conference and had such a great dialogue, has such a great spirit. And from then on, we've been talking ever since. We're like each other's accountability partners. And I'm just still thrilled that Dr. Katherine James has allowed herself to be part of this. And thank you so much. I definitely appreciate this. And you are in for a treat if you have not heard of Dr. Katherine James, because number one, she does 5:40 a.m. live events where she is just pouring inspiration into everyone who's able to log on Facebook Live. And in addition to that, she's also the associate pastor of Shiloh Deliverance Church International in Detroit, Michigan. She's a transformational coach. And above all, she's an author of the book called Self-Love. Okay. Thank you, Dr. James, for coming in today. So first and foremost, question in itself. What actually inspired you to write the book Self-Love? I'm going to unmute you because you are muted for some reason.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So what inspired me? First of all, Uche, thank you for this amazing opportunity to come on. And I agree with you. We saw each other in line, and then we kept sitting like in back of each other, right? And so God knew that this was meant to happen. He knew, we didn't know it, but he knew that we would come from our different places and end up in California, and then we would be here today. So thank you for the opportunity. And I applaud you, first of all, for your leadership with women, for your leadership in making sure that women, that they soar in STEM. So I want to applaud you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And so what inspired me? I continued throughout my life would run into people, women a lot of times, but not just women, who would find themselves struggling. Like when they would have conversations about themselves, I find it over and over again, it would be negative conversations. Many of them were my close friends, sisters, family members. And for me, this was a foreign thing, right? And so what I found is that for most of my life, I have spoken life to myself, and I can contribute that back to just growing up in an amazing extended family experience where these strong Black women basically were taking no prisoners. And my hero of history has always been Harriet Tubman.
I love it.
Yes, and so it was finding what was common to me was uncommon to many of the wonderful individuals that I was in relationship with. And so I found myself telling the same story over and over and over again, over and over, saying the same things to individuals over and over and over again. And then one day God said, hey, there are people who need this message who you will never meet, who you will never even know exist. I need you to discipline yourself enough to put it in print so we can go out to my beloved. And that's how we got here today.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being obedient.
You're welcome.
And creating that, because I'm pretty sure that that book is going to inspire and change lives. So thank you for doing that. So in your experience, because you said you've kept hearing, you kept giving different feedback to family members and friends. In your experience, what are some of the reasons why you think we have a difficult time loving ourselves?
Yeah, it is because we received the lies, messages at some point in our life. Someone spoke the absence of value and worth to us, and we received it. Because any point when we reject it, then we don't walk out that issue of not loving ourselves. But at the point in which we receive the lies that say we are less than valuable, less than amazing, less than worth, right? The breath that we're breathing, then we will struggle with self-love.
That's interesting that you say that, because we were all born innocent.
Yes.
And we all were born with self-love and self-worth.
Yes, yes.
But the fact is that people, when they're telling us this, it piles on top of our self-worth and our self-love. And it keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yes.
Why we become in a state of less loving ourselves. Is that a great way of how to?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if you can imagine that we come, say if you imagine that we come perfectly packaged, but if that package in some way is exposed to that which is not life-giving, it's going to begin to deteriorate. And we'll be exposed, but we need more exposure to that which is life-giving in order to restore the package. And anytime that's out of balance, right, that which is deteriorating is more frequented than that which is life-giving, then we lose our capacity to ward off those negative messages.
Ooh, love that. Yes, that was good. Got chills in my bones. Well, it's interesting that so we're talking about negativity and that we receive. And a friend of mine was telling me about a Demi Lovato song called I Love Me. And she said, listen to those lyrics, Uche, because we was having a conversation of worth, of self-worth, and why we sometimes undervalue ourselves. And I was listening to the lyrics, and she said, I am a black belt when beating up on myself, but I'm an expert at giving love to someone else.
Yes.
And that song really resonated with me. And I began to ask myself, like, that's interesting, because that's me at times. And so what advice would you have for us who are constantly beating ourselves up, but we are loving others more than ourselves?
So self-awareness is key. Self-awareness is key. So you need to ask yourself, where's this coming from? Where is it coming from? What is my limitation for loving myself? So self-awareness, first of all, we need to know where it's coming from. Secondly, we need to practice self-acceptance. We all fall short. Every last one of us has some level of issue, some form of issue, somewhere in which we have not meet the mark. The way that I live my life is I just accept that that's a matter of fact. That is going to be, it is going to happen. And so I accept my good, bad, and my ugly. I don't stop there, but that's a beginning place. Because when we function from a place of denial and avoidance and pretending that something is as it is, then it just gives it more power. And so when I fall short, when I have an issue, when I am not kind or whatever it is that might happen, I just stop and ask, Kathy, what was that about? Not with a place of judgment, but with a place of inquiry. Really, what was about? What was going on there? All right, is that what you want? Is that what you want to do in the future? And if not, what do you need to do different? So from a place of inquiry, to simply stop, be honest, I practice telling myself the entire truth. Tell myself the whole truth.
How did you get to that point? Because that is real, right? Because I sometimes don't want to go there. Yeah. Because I'm afraid of what I will find.
Yeah. So I think that it was a combination. Certainly it's God. So if I track it back to what I can recall, because my original early on, I didn't know of God. So early on, I had a mother she just took anybody at face value, just for who you were. So that was a beginning place of the seeds that were sown. Now get this is the interesting thing, is that when I wrote my book, and I had this amazing extended family experience that allowed me to become and be self-accepting and be to make the changes and pivot and be okay with all of that. And I had made some assumptions. I wrote my book in 2016. So there were some things I didn't even consider, that other people's experience in my family was not the same.
Interesting.
I had never even considered that. So that was it was a valuable piece of information that I got. But so I don't apologize for the way I experienced it, though. That was my experience. And so that was the seeds that were sown. And then later on, as I got an identity in Christ, look, once I realized who I was in Christ, it just took it to the next level. That's just the reality for me. Once I realized that my value and worth sent Jesus to the cross, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. And so for me, when I think about, for those who are, and this is my faith belief, right? Everyone doesn't believe the same, and it's okay. But we all can have an anchor in some way or another. My anchor just happens to be Jesus Christ. So once I realized that Jesus placed my value, you know, that his blood gave me life, it was a wrap for me. And I try to promote that to others who aspire to have the Bible as their anchor, is when they struggle with worth and acceptance and belonging and all those kinds of things. I try to do a simple thing and say, let's just go back to the cross and remember why Christ was there.
I love your conviction.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Well, so especially what's happening right now in today's time, how do you encourage people to start their day? So I used to start my day by going on to the news station. I kept doing that.
Yeah.
It was a demotivator.
Mm-hmm.
And I was finding myself becoming depressed.
Yeah.
So what steps would you recommend for us when we get up to make sure that we are in the mind frame of self-love and of being positive?
Yeah. So one is I start my day, I start with a meditation in which it's feeding me. I don't, when I get up, I need something to feed me. I usually get up and I am, out of my mouth, first of all, is thank you, God, for waking me up. Then I do a meditation. And then this third piece is a place of gratitude. I write out 10 things in which I'm grateful for. If we can find 1, 2, 3, whatever our number is, things in which we're grateful for, gratitude is an antidote, right? It's an antidote for hopelessness. We can't be grateful and hopeless at the same time. It's just not possible. So that's what I would suggest. Get up and find something to be grateful for and write it out or speak it out or type it out, but make it tangible.
Love it. So you said 2 things. 1, get up and meditate.
Yes.
And 2, find something to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
And if we can write it down, it becomes real for us.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Make sure you guys write that down. Those are 2 powerful things that we need to make sure that we can take away with us, is being able to meditate and to show gratitude towards ourselves, or something that we're grateful for. And that way, that's another way for us being obedient and to not allow the world to overcome and take us into everything external that is happening outside, right? Because it's okay, like you said, self-aware. It's okay to be aware.
Yeah.
But it's more important internally for you to understand how you can move forward despite what is happening externally.
Yeah, and I want to speak to what is happening right now in the sense that give people permission. It is so important that we have permission to be afraid. We have permission to feel fear, because to not feel fear is to not be real. It's to not be authentic. Now, we don't let fear take the driving seat. We let fear is a part of our makeup. We honor our emotions, all of them. And fear tells us we need some more information or we need to change. We need to make some adjustment. So I just want to give everybody permission to feel fear. Just don't stay there. Just don't stay there.
Thank you. Because we hear all the time. We hear it all the time that you don't want so you're saying it's okay to feel fear, but don't allow it to dictate how we behave.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
that's absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So so I'm making an assumption here.
Okay.
That you've read the book by Rick Warren,
Yes.
Purpose-Driven Life. Okay. Absolutely. What are you on earth for? Yes.
Yes.
And okay, so I read this book maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
When I knew that I was going to come speak to you, that we were going to talk today, I said, okay, let me go back to the basics of what he was talking about in Purpose-Driven Life. And he says, in the first chapter, he says, it is not about you. Your purpose in life is greater than your own personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
And reading this one sentence brought me back when I first read it 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
because of its vastness of
Yes.
how small we are compared to what our purpose may be in life. What advice would you give us as we search for our purpose and not to be discouraged?
Yeah. So when I was watching you when Kevin was on, and Kevin's mentor said something, because I'm always, purpose is one of the areas in which I park in, because I believe that we are brilliant in the way in which we've been created. And I believe can't nobody do, and I'm using this terminology on purpose, can't nobody do Uche like Uche can do Uche. And can't nobody do Kathy and Joy and Letitia and Deborah and Jomo and Eric like we can do us, right? We have a small part of the population that only we can effectively speak to. And I believe it's imperative that we understand that first and foremost. And so then we will value our unique purpose, our unique reason for being first and foremost. We need to value it. Secondly, his mentor said something. So I like the way he described purpose for us to figure it out, because oftentimes we see purpose as being elusive. So a lot of people we flounder every day because we're like, what is purpose? What is that? Like it's some big existential thing that we can't put our hands on. And I want to bring that down to a bite-sized reality. And he said, when people keep asking me to do things, note that there's a reason for it. And then he said, and then learn to do it better. So when people keep asking us to do things, note that thing and then learn to do it better. Our purpose has left breadcrumbs. Every last one of us can stop right now and think of something that kept repeating over and over. It kept showing up in our lives over and over and over again. That's purpose. We walk out purpose every day. We engage purpose every day. We're just not aware and conscious of that thing. But purpose is knocking on our door every day and inviting us to identify it and be way more intentional about it and walk it out. But every day, look at the breadcrumb. What is the theme? What's the common theme that has been in your life, in my life, since we can remember? Since I can remember, my mouth has been open. When I look at my baby picture, I wish I had it right now. My baby picture has my mouth like this, wide open, side view, mouth wide open. I was the class president. In my class president picture of my high school, mouth wide open. I was a cheerleader, mouth wide open. I ended up being a preacher, mouth wide open. I'm a teacher, mouth wide open. I know my husband and my son is like, Jesus.
Okay. So, well, you said something. You said your purpose is leaving breadcrumbs.
Yes, yes.
We have to be aware and intentional of proceeding with what that is.
That's right. That's
so
right.
We have comments here. I love what, so I'm looking at in chat to make sure that everyone is engaged. Jomo Maple said, self-assessment is dynamic, not static.
That's right.
Ask yourself if what you're doing today is getting you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely.
And Letitia said, parking your purpose, can't nobody do you like you can do you. James, yes. Those are great quotes. And Eric says, chiming in again, fear is not of us. That's why we are out of sort when we are in it or attempt to shape it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. And you know what, I think also too, the reason why we have a hard time identifying our purpose is because it's so many things going on that we, the veil is like covered over us. Right. Okay. And sometimes, so when you say, you know, when you think about how you knew that you could speak, right? That you cultivate, you can create words and you bring life and feeling into it. And you were saying you could remember, you were just going incrementally through the steps. And what if you don't know? I mean, what if you can't discern between that? Is it just really hearing what people are saying about you consistently that you need to just be really self-aware and take note of that and then try to pursue it?
Yeah, what I really believe is if we would simply stop, quiet ourselves enough and look at our history. Our history is an indicator, right? Our history tells us there's something that we do better than anybody we know. And this is not a comparison thing. It's just what gives you life. It's what causes you to breathe. It brings a smile to your face. You would do it for free. You do it when you're not trying to do it. If we just stop and look at that, that's purpose. Purpose is not one thing. Purpose is a theme, right? My theme is that of conversation, and it shows up in lots of different ways. That's the theme in my life. So it's not one thing. Oftentimes we get stuck and we think it's one thing. It's not. What is the theme of your life? Is it a theme of serving, right? Is it a theme of leading, Uche? Is it a theme of being in a transformative way? Whatever it is, what's the theme? Is it the theme of physical manipulation of something? What's the theme?
Thank you for that clarification, because that does make a big difference.
Yes.
Because we think it's singular, but it's
Right.
that can have a multitude. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So next question. So in reality, we're all driven by something.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for us to remove in our life to receive clarity? And we just talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Said, be still.
Be still. Yeah.
How difficult is it once for you, because some people may have to shed people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What would you recommend on the way on how to do that gracefully? Because it can cause anxiety, because you're comfortable, and when you identify where you're trying to go, that could be anything. You may have to shed friends, you may have to shed family, you may have to remove yourself from social environments. How would you recommend we can do that in a way that we are still maintaining sanity, I guess?
So it sounds like I heard two things there, just from a clarification. So I'll do what I thought I heard it in. If it's something else, let me know. So one of the piece is there are times when we, in order to move to the next version or the next level, in order to pivot in the way that the universe or God is inviting us to pivot, we've got to change some things. And sometimes those things are actually people. We got to adjust our closeness to them, if you will, our proximity. Or sometimes we have to stop it altogether, stop the engagement. And for that, I would say, do it from such a place of honor, such a place of honor. Honor yourself in that you've recognized that this is as it is, and no one has to be wrong in this. It's just a change. Change is inevitable in life. And so if what we had previously no longer works, honor that. And understand that more than likely, unless that other person has done some really significant amount of self-development work, that they won't understand it and that they will take it personally. So expect that. Be okay with it. Honor them for what has been, because at some point it worked. At some point it fed both of us. Honor that, and then bow out gracefully. Bow out gracefully, and be okay, and honor the hurt, the loss, because even when we're doing it, we're still likely to experience some loss. Expect that and honor it, and then go on into where we're being invited to go.
Thank you. So the way I look at that is, in order to increase, sometimes we need to decrease.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. So another question is, does knowing your purpose simplify your life? Right? And here's a question I'm going to ask you. How do you see your life? What is your view of your life?
Oh my God. Let's see. The Matrix. I'm trying to think of something that's got all of this going on. It's multifaceted. It's ever moving. It is fulfilling. It is amazing. It is sometimes it's pressure. It's all of these things, because becoming There's nothing about becoming that simple. Nothing. There is nothing about becoming that simple. There is a perpetual demand. Becoming has a perpetual demand embedded in it. Now, as we learn and grow, we understand that also embedded in that must be self-care. Because as we are becoming, if we are not careful, we will get on this treadmill and not get off of it. Or the pinwheel like hamsters, and humans aren't made to do that. We are required to have a Sabbath, that time and space in which we stop and we engage nothingness. Which we engage nothingness. We simply be, simply the process of being. Don't produce, don't consider, don't contemplate, just be. That's such a restorative place for us in which we rarely visit. And so sometimes I ponder about COVID-19 as it relates to the Sabbath. We now have opportunities to visit the Sabbath.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know, so when you found out what you wanted to, how you were going to impact lives,
Okay.
once you identified that, did it make your path clearer? And when I say clear, I don't mean where you are, I meant as far as having a more of an understanding of what your mission is.
Yeah. Yeah. I am put here solely to help folk in the simplest term to become their best selves, simplest, to figure out who you are, why you are, and to be about the business of doing it without apology. That's why I'm here. Who are you? Why are you? Let's figure out how to do it. And let's not apologize, because oftentimes when we're tripping over ourselves like, oh, I didn't do that right, or this didn't happen, this didn't look like that. Who cares? Because all of us got issues and stuff. You're going to get better the more you do it. Just keep trying. And so with that, once I figured that out, so I figured it out for myself first. And then whatever I figure out for me, because I'm a consummate teacher, I try to figure that out to help other folks to figure it out for themselves or to walk them through that process.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Katherine James. All right. So I was told that the way you see your life shapes your life.
Okay.
And if you have a life that is not a life of positivity or support system, and you have a life that is in an environment of where you feel oppressed, that in a way dictates how you're going to behave and move forward. What do you recommend in order to get out of that?
So a couple of things. I think one, we need to, self-affirmations, right? That which we say to ourselves, which we feed ourselves. What we feed ourselves matter. What we look at matter. Our diet that we take in, that matters. It's either going to feed us, keep us stagnant, or take us backwards, one or the other. It's not neutral. What we consume every day, it's going to give us the fruit of tomorrow. What we do today is going to give us the fruit of tomorrow. And so it's very, very important that we are intentional about what we feed every day. So there's this one statement that I really believe for everybody, is that we're an irreplaceable, unrepeatable, remarkable miracle with our own special brand of brilliance. We are an irreplaceable, unrepeatable, remarkable miracle with our own special brand of brilliance. Now, if you feed yourself that stuff every day, and even if you don't believe it when you first start saying, because sometimes we don't believe that stuff about ourselves because of what has been said to us in the past, what we've embraced in the past. But if you say that to yourself every day, give yourself that kind of diet, yeah, you think you're Superman, Superwoman, Wonder Woman.
I love that. So I'm looking at the comments, and great comments, great feedback. Jomo again, our purpose leaves breadcrumbs. Deborah said, the thing about your purpose is it's not just for you.
Yes,
Purpose is usually best used to serve and help others.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Letitia said, purpose causes you to breathe.
Mm.
When you aren't trying to do it, it is not one thing, it is a theme. What drives you to breathe? This is your purpose, and it does not have to be singular. Yeah, that was good.
Amen.
That's a great
Amen.
idea right there.
Amen.
Everyone is saying that purpose is not a thing, it's a theme.
Yes, yes, yes.
And Erica says, for me, I did not want to trust or believe the messengers when shared my purpose with me or told me. Being a defiant child, I was unwilling to believe or accept the message from the messengers.
Okay.
So what advice would you give? I know we talked about this, but specifically when someone says, someone has evidence of people saying, you know, it's confirmation over and over again, but we're having a hard time believing what that is. What advice would you give them?
So each of us have an internal message that plays in the background of our mind, and we often are not aware of it. So my first advice would be to sit with yourself long enough to look at the internal message. There's something that we are saying to ourselves that stops us from receiving life. Right?
Discovery.
Yes, discovery, right? We have a tape recorder that automatically plays for every situation in life. And as we grow, then we learn to record or re-record, right? Because the messages, we didn't put them there. They developed over time. And once we become aware, we go, and I assess my messages all the time. And if my messages are not life-giving, they are going to be erased and re-recorded.
Okay. Eric, I hope that answered it, because that is actually great advice.
Yeah.
That I love that. We have, Jomo says, refresh like a computer. And Joe is like, yes, Jomo,
Yeah.
like a computer. Your purpose may be the oxygen for someone else.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
So next question I have is, do you believe we were put on earth, and we've already confirmed this really, but do you believe we were put on this earth to make a contribution? What does that look like? And how can we find it? So that's 3 questions.
Absolutely, we've been put on this earth to make a contribution without a doubt. I personally believe that people are waiting on us. They're waiting. Imagine somebody standing at the bus stop waiting for you to come, and we don't show up because we don't walk in purpose. And so, yes, I believe we've been put on, and I don't remember the other 2 questions.
What may that look like? Right. So, you know, we have, so you found your purpose. We have people saying that, oh, I was meant to be a speaker.
Yes.
And I was meant to, or I was meant to serve or to organize.
Yes.
And if you're not used to hearing that, and
Yeah.
someone says, because I know for me, there was a time when someone would say, hey, go find your purpose. In the Bible, it talks about all these different gifts. And when I read it, I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
How I can apply this to me.
Yeah.
And what that really means to me.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, in your words, is what does that look like when someone has found their purpose, as an example?
Oh, what does it look like when they found their purpose?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It looks like the sun shining when there's a tornado or a storm outside. It looks like direction and clarity. It looks like intention, and it looks like service. Individuals are served well within our families and outside of our families. It looks like a student of mine gave me a quote, and he says, purpose is an incredible alarm clock. It looks like getting up in the morning because the internal alarm clock has gone off and said, Kathy, get about the business of being you, because the universe is waiting on you to show up. It looks like intention and clarity and focus, right? Mm. It looks like the fruit that is developed every time you breathe. Every time you breathe out and take in something in the universe changes because we've shown up. That's what purpose looks like.
You know, when speaking of the news station, when I was watching it, I watch Chris Cuomo all the time. Mm-hmm. And I can tell that this man has found what he was meant to, because he enjoys it so much and he's making
Yes.
an impact. Or
Yes.
even AOC, the congresswoman, or just a lot of people that you see, and you could tell the ones who have it, they're still trying to develop it. But
Yes.
just coming to mind of just different people real time of what the world is seeing, you can tell the ones because they're making an impact. Van Jones, they're making an impact on who they are affecting and who and the output of that. Thank you. So we have Eric. He said, yes, yep, you answered the question. He said, I've been growing and knowing me today, and I can share my experiences. Today, I realize my purpose is deeper than the message shared. The depth is deeper than I imagined. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
You know, earlier this week, someone was on and they talked about, we were talking about owning your brilliance, and they said, I'm afraid because I feel that my purpose is global.
Yes, I remember that.
Right? What advice would you have given them because of that fear of the vastness of what they feel like their purpose is?
Keep walking. Take fear with you. Tell fear that it only gets, fear is appropriate. It's a legitimate emotion. It's legitimate. It makes sense that we have fear. It does not make sense that we submit to fear. It makes sense that it's there. Keep walking. That's fear. And it's okay. Fear just, again, says that we need more information. We need more exposure. We need to keep going. There are times when we simply need to do it while we're afraid. And what'll happen is we won't stay afraid, right? If I start at 1 and I'm terrified, I make it to 2, I'm a little less terrified. By the time I get to 8, I'm just like, 10, I'm good. Fear is gone. Confidence is there. We need to keep moving forward when we're afraid. So there's a quote that I recently heard, and it says, action is the antidote to despair. Okay. So action is like the antidote to fearing. Just keep moving forward.
I remember 2 years ago, I had to present in front of a group of people,
and
I terrified myself so much. I remember I had to present on a Thursday.
Okay.
And that Wednesday, I went to prayer service and prayed to remove the fear.
Yeah.
And Thursday, because I was so afraid, I messed up.
Yeah.
And when I look back on it, I created that fear myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made it bigger than what it could ever have been. Yes.
Right.
So thank you.
We create a fear storm. And so it's interesting you shared that story, because you know all of what we're exposing and what we're doing. And although I've been speaking and talking and writing and stuff for a long time, maybe about a month ago, I had to go up for prayer because I got a glimpse of what my life looks like 5 years down the road, and it terrified me. And so I owned that terror. I owned the fear, and I acknowledged it. I took my butt up for prayer. And I just admit it. And so admittance is a first step. Just say you're afraid. It's okay. And, got support for it.
How many of us on right now has been in that position where we were doing something, and then when we really had a chance to be still and grasp the moment, that it terrified us? How many of us actually stopped? How many of us kept going?
Both.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes we have a tendency to allow that to impact us and dictate how we move and walk.
That's right.
Right? So I love this. This is great. Dr. Katherine James, everybody. So next question I have is, we have all been shaped by personal experiences. Okay. How can we use our painful experience to impact others to live their best life? Yeah.
And so first of all, we don't let our pain imprison us. We own it, right? We own that. We do our work first. You got to do, if you don't do your work, if we don't do our work, we're going to bleed on other people. Mm-hmm. We're going to vomit on other people if we don't do our work. So we do our work first, and then we're authentic and transparent. So when we do our work, I'm okay with you seeing my stuff. I'm okay with you seeing my shortcomings. I'm okay with you seeing my flaws. There are times when I'll get up in the pulpit and I'll forget a scripture. And in some churches, it's like sacrilegious to say, oh, I don't remember that scripture. Can somebody help me with that? And some places, people are looking at me like, really? And she's a seminary instructor. And I'm like, yep, I am. And so it's okay. I'm not perfect. I'm okay with not being perfect. I'm okay with that. And so that's what I do is I do it for myself, then I model it for other people.
Mm. And you model it, so you're demonstrating.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
demonstrating it. You're walking the walk.
And then I walk it, I talk, because they'll see it and they might not know exactly what that was. And then I'll give them the background and let them know I'm okay with falling short because it's inevitable. I'm okay with the inevitable. I just do the best that I can. And when my best falls short, sometimes my best is a 10, sometimes my best is a 2. I'm okay in both states.
Leticia said, the power of life and death lie in the tongue.
Yes. Yes.
We have the power to allow fear to immobilize us or propel us to the next level.
Yeah.
They said that be careful because our words are very powerful.
Absolutely. Yes, Leticia, absolutely.
Yes, that is great. So, guys, please keep the questions coming. Whatever you have, she's right here. And if anyone has a question that they would like to verbally ask, we can definitely do that. Just raise your hand and I can unmute you. If there's any questions that you want to have right now, talking to Dr. Katherine James now that we have her here. So, what is in a word, how would you describe your journey has been?
Life-giving. That's how I would describe it. It has been life-giving. It is not, I grew up in poverty. I grew up in the inner city of Detroit, and I yet still live in Detroit by choice. And so I am so grateful for my beginnings, tremendously grateful, because I love me some me. And those beginnings created who I am today. So I can't despise my history because I love my amazing present. I'm okay with this girl right here. I'm okay with her. And it's that history that allowed me to be that. And then my, my processing through my acceptance of my history. And so I don't forgot the question.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's great. Well, I was going to ask is, how important is it for us to invest in ourselves despite other people saying no? So when I was at the conference where we met at, I met a young lady, and she was just saying how her family were always telling her that she was investing too much in herself.
Yes.
That why would she go to these different types of conferences? Why would she go to these different type of retreats? Because they are not yielding the results immediately.
Yeah. And so we have to be okay with ourselves enough to understand that people won't understand. We've got to be okay with that. We've got to be okay with the contrary voices. While we're on the mission of purpose, while we're in process of going towards purpose and destiny, a whole lot of folk not gonna get it. And we gotta be okay with that. It is imperative that we invest in ourselves. Look, there are people who pay $300 for gym shoes. Okay? There are people who will pay $500 to put something on their back that's gonna deteriorate. When we pay $1, $1,000, or thousands of dollars to sit and listen and hear and receive a word that's gonna pivot us, there's no price to be put on it. Now we need to use wisdom, right, in how we're using the money, because if something else, if it needs to be used for something else, right, in the moment, but what you do is you save and you plan and you prepare so that the next time that thing comes around, I'm going to be ready, because I'm not going to buy that gym shoe, and I'm not going to go to that fast food, and I'm not going to spend my money on that extra piece of technology that I don't need anyway, because next year, I'm going to be sitting in that seat and I'm going to receive everything they got. I'm going to take it in like it's a piece of double chocolate cake. I'm going to take it in. Do you see?
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So we are getting great comments. Leticia said, the power of life and death lie. Oh, we talked about that one. Oh, she said, I'm a firm believer that we're all the sum of our total of our life experiences. Jomo says, #facts. Joy's like, absolutely. And Joy says we need to save, plan, and prepare.
Yes.
What would you be willing to jump? No? What should you be willing to jump? When will you be willing to jump? Oh, when should you be willing to jump? Got it. Okay. Is it in terms of jumping into your purpose, jumping into your investment?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. I guess that is a good question. When should you do it?
I think she wants to be on mute. Is that what you said?
Oh, okay. You're on mute.
Mute yours.
Oh, I got it.
So the question that I'm asking is, when should you be willing to jump? So I understand like the save, plan, prepare, and I understand that that it's important not to do something you can't afford to do or whatever the case is, but there may be a time when there's an opportunity to say, okay, yeah, this money may be for something else, but when is the appropriate time to jump? Do you see what I'm saying? Because we made that observation that, yeah, we need to plan, prepare, and save for the next year. But when is it, when is a good opportunity to say, okay, now's the time, or whatever the case is? When do I know that I have enough ducks in a row to maybe put it on a credit card, or maybe, jump and it be an investment? So that's the question. I hope I'm wording that well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so for each one of us, we would answer that differently, right? Because we need to be wise stewards of our finances, our time, all those kinds of things. It's just not stewards of finances. But so for each one of us, it's different. But when we reach a juncture in the road, when we know we have taken ourselves as far as we can take ourselves, we then have the responsibility to reach outside of ourselves. And so that's a beginning place. Right then, if you don't already have the money, it's time to start preparing to save so that you can take yourself to the next level.
It's interesting that you said that, Joy, because it's just like when you have a mentor. I remember when I first started working, I had a mentor. And then I left the company and I came back 5 years later. And when I would try to have a conversation, they were still conversing with me like it was 5 years ago. And I said, what I was using this mentor for is no longer of service to me.
Yeah.
And I had to jump and go find someone else who was going to push me and stretch me in where I needed to go. One of the things that the conference we went to, that said that they went to this particular conference X amount of time.
Yeah.
And when they started teaching, to me, if I start teaching and knowing everything that's coming out the mouth of the person speaking, I have learned what I needed to learn at that moment.
Yeah.
And now I need to go find and expand and grow.
Yeah.
So I believe it's really depends on where you are. But when you make that comment, it reminded me, because I was like, the mentor is not teaching me anything I didn't know anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to just add one piece to that, Uche, because sometimes we can know it, but not do it. Do you see? So sometimes we can have the same knowledge that our mentors have, but the mentor is going to be that fuel that says, hey, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I know you know it, but I don't see the fruit of your knowledge of it. Oh. So sometimes we have to go from here to our heart.
Very good. Execution.
Progress. Yes, execution. Absolutely.
Love it. Leticia said, we should always be willing to jump when you feel that you can't breathe if you don't.
All right.
So what, in the spirit, before we close, what thought or what comment or what would you like to leave us with so that we can take and implement or chew on or have something where we do a plan of approach, where there's a call of action? What would you like for us to take away?
Yeah. So I thought long and hard about that question. There's so much. I think it's two things. I think we've got to believe that we are really, this is not a cliche, I believe this with everything in me, that we are an irreplaceable, unrepeatable miracle with our own special brand of brilliance. And that if we don't fully show up, we've got this whole stadium full of people who need our particular flavoring that they don't get because we've not done our work to show up. And I think the last piece, you know, so whether we're talking God or the universe, I believe it's an absolute insult to the universe to not become all. An absolute insult to God to not become all.
Dr. Katherine James, everybody. Yes, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions before we go off? Okay, so thank you for coming. What we're gonna have in chat is Dr. Katherine's information of where you can find her. Is that where you can purchase her book as well? Okay, so her book, Self-Love, she has that link there, and you can definitely find her there. And in addition to that, I'm gonna also post where recently I I am currently right now doing pre-sales for the Thrive in Leadership manual. Thank you, a manual for leader. Yes, a manual for leaders in the workplace, and you can definitely purchase it purchase it as well, where it's just going to be on pre-sale for the next 2 weeks, and I have that in chat as well. Thank you. You have her Facebook page. Very good. And you can definitely find the book there. That's my website as well if you have any questions on that, and that's the way for us to get in contact with both of us if you have any questions. So everyone, thank you for coming, and above all, keep moving, keep striving, and keep breaking boundaries. And so if you register today, you will definitely be getting a link for all of the events, the speakers that we've had this week. They'll be sent to you by the end of this week. And that way you have a plethora of information. And the goal here is to make sure everyone is living their best life, finding their purpose, finding their brilliance, and leading and thriving.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Have a great Friday, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Uche. This was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.